All right, today's guest is what happens when a firefighter, fitness coach, and GQ model walk into a gym, and it's just one guy. He's built like a Greek statue, trains like a beast, and probably smells like eucalyptus. And discipline. Did I mention he was Mr. January? Coaching people to build unshakable resilience, he's a walking TED Talk in Lululemon and one-man hype machine for self-betterment. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam.
Stronger, smarter, faster, healthier, better.
There you go, brother. Let's crack these open.
That was arguably the biggest hype I think I've
Hype machine
ever.
for you.
That was fire, man. Thank you.
How's your day been?
One more time for me next time.
Yeah. I'll just cut it.
I'm
I'll send it to
listen
you.
to this all day. Yeah,
It'll be your
wake up in
voicemail.
the morning. Yeah.
How's your day been?
It's been good, man. Yeah, I woke up, did my morning routine, logged in, and grateful to be here. Drove up here, man.
Yeah,
I did see my mother and grandmother this morning before I left, which was
That's always nice.
amazing.
What's your morning routine? I find different. I always like hearing people's morning routines because some are super simplistic, some are super complicated.
For sure.
I like Alex Hormozi's kind of take to it when he's just like,
I know exactly.
just have a cup of coffee and get to work.
For sure.
Right, and that resonated a lot with me because I find that like with there's so many beautiful things you can do, and like taking a cold shower to wake up, taking that moment for yourself and walking outside in the sun.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need to have a cup of coffee and go to work, I feel.
For sure. I think there's a lot of different takes on both, I guess, realistically, right? Like, I love Hormozi's take on it as well, but depending on how you wake up, how the sleep was, how dysregulated you are, like, yes, there's a lot of power in being able to just show up and just do the work right away, but also to be able to regulate your nervous system and dial in a way where you can own your day. Like there's a book called Own the Day by Aubrey Marcus that was like my first big introduction on how to own my days and own my life. And it really taught me the aspect of what a perfect day structure would be for me and how to set up my day in that way, and how much more successful I am throughout my day when I do that for longevity. Right? Like It's great to be able to like get up, smash a coffee, lock in and get to work. But is that sustainable? I guess is the only thing. And again, both are okay, whether you're looking for sustainability, longevity, or just getting the shit done and then hopefully reassessing, auditing, and regulating and coming back to ground at a later point. But I know exactly what you're. I was like, you're like Hormozi's take on. I'm like, I really thought about this on the drive up here this morning.
Okay, so sorry, what is your morning routine?
Yeah, so my morning routine, I actually just implemented a new practice. It's the Silva method. I just started it. I'm excited to kind of see what happens. But basically, you wake up, and in the first 5-10 minutes of your morning, like right when you wake up out of bed, you're in an alpha brainwave state. So it's this relaxed, calming brainwave state that can kind of set up and really provide more clarity and direction for how you operate in your day and your body and your nervous system and your brain. You can actually like create new neural networks and new neural pathways for belief systems, especially like a lot of belief work. So wake up, like this morning I got up, I get up, I brush my teeth, have a pee, sit back in bed, and I count down from 100. So the first 10 days you count from 100 to 1, and then you kind of manifest and you visualize what it is that you want to bring into your day, and you visualize the person that you want to be, how you want to behave, how you want to act, the successes that you want, the boundaries maybe that you need to set, and the work that you're going to accomplish. And so that's a new practice that I've implemented in my days.
Interesting.
Yes, it's like the first 10 days, it's 100 to 1. And then the second 10 days, 50 to 1. Third 10 days, 25 to 1. And then the 31 to 40 is 10 to 1. And then the science, I guess, behind it, or the theory, which I'm excited to test, and I'll let you know how it goes. Is that when you do this consistently over a period of time, your body reaches a point where you actually don't need to be like in that 5 to 10 minute wake up window where your body's already set in that alpha brainwave state, where you can then, wherever you go, like say you're on the subway or you're on a train or you're driving, you can count back from 10 and you can hit that alpha brainwave state and hit that parasympathetic calming nervous system state and relax your mind and body and step into that, which I found is super interesting.
That is interesting. So for the audience at home, so is it one of those things where it's like you take a breath and you're like going like 100 or whatever, I'm going to be productive today, and you say it like, is that how it is? Like,
so the structure that I've been doing it is I literally count back from 100. So I'll go like 100, 99, 98.
Oh, okay, so it's not after each number.
No, so I literally count all the way down, and then when I get to 1, then I begin to find more clarity and say to myself exactly what it is that I want to tap into, what I want to manifest, what I want to create, what I want to believe, and how I want to act throughout my day. Yeah.
And then after that, do you have like a cup of coffee?
Yeah. Coffee's usually about
it's pretty
90
essential.
minutes.
Yeah.
It is, but I wait 90 minutes to about 2 hours after, just for the cortisol spike to drop back down. So I can regulate it that way. So I'll get up, brush my teeth, cold shower right away, and then I will make my bed, because you got to make your bed. You know, first thing of the day always.
Yeah.
First
A messy bed is a messy brain.
That's it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's true. What? It's true, guys.
It's
true.
A little bit. Eh?
You know, the first thing that they tell people, one of the first things they tell people who are like in rehab is the first thing to do is to clean your room, because they say like a messy room is a messy mind, and that's like one of the, because nobody wants to make their bed and clean their room, so if that's like their first win of the day. So that always kind of stuck with me, is like a messy bed, a messy room is a messy mind.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't know, it stuck with me. I liked it.
That first one of the day is the biggest thing.
First win of the day is super important.
There's another book. I can't remember the name of the book, but it's by this Navy SEAL. Anyways, he gives this. There's a great YouTube video of this guy giving this speech, and I think it's called like "Make Your Bed" or something like that.
Yeah. Something
it's
so
probably
simple.
not called that, but it's like literally the first one of your day. If you can just make your bed, you're already setting your day up for success. And leaning into the wins of your day allows you to be successful, right?
Yeah.
So definitely make your bed.
Yeah.
After
Make
that,
your bed, guys.
Make your bed. All right, and then tap into a little stretching. I have like a 10 to 15 minute stretching routine I'll do every morning. And then another 10 to 15 minute journaling routine that I do. So I'll write my mission statement, 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 goals I have for that day. One moment I'm appreciative of, like the past, something I can like visualize and see and like be present in that moment. And then also something I'm looking forward to in the future. And then this is the perfect morning. If I have enough time, which I try and a lot realistically for my days. It's something I take a lot of, not pride in, but it's something that is really important to me. So my mornings are protected for me. So I do try and accomplish this every morning, and then breath work as well. I'll do like a 10 to 15 minute breath work session in the mornings to really calm my nervous system and dial in.
Do you find that if like you have a horrible sleep, or something happens where you're rushed in the morning, if you're not able to like accomplish those things, do you find you're a little bit like put off for the rest of the day, and if you are, what brings you back?
So great question. I think it depends on the day, of course. Like if you do have a good sleep and you don't happen to hit a bunch of those pieces, or maybe you have a really beautiful interaction like right off the morning, or you go and do something super fun or exciting, then oftentimes you don't really need to do some of those practices, because you're setting yourself up for success from the beautiful things that you have to do for that day. I find these morning practices, and again, I try and stay consistent with it every day, just because the consistency within it, that like regardless if I have a good or a bad day, I know I'm able to show up the way I need to. But on the days where you don't get to do that, and I maybe do feel dysregulated or I feel off, I'll do a breathwork session. I'll do like NSDR, like non-sleep deep rest, just a quick body scan.
I've done that a couple of times too myself. Right?
Yeah, it's nice in that just for a moment to reset and calm your nervous system. Do a quick body scan, and yeah, like try and find the time to prioritize that time to regulate. And again, depends on the individual.
Yeah.
Some of us are locked in all the time, and you don't need to regulate as much, which is fantastic. But for me myself, just from a lot of dysregulation through my life that I've had to address, it's something that I need and is incredibly important. And I think the more tools that we can have, the more tools that we know, the more tools that we've tried and are tested and are true for us to be able to use, the more successful we'll be in our lives. And that's really the goal, right? Both to be successful in business, but also in just life, and just like living a full, whole life and being able to be present, to be successful in being present and not being scattered or taken away from the moments that really give you that joy and beauty within life, which is really just being present.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's so interesting how even just spending like 5 minutes, just like no phone, just to think like about whatever you need to think about, it seems to a person like, oh, I don't have 5 minutes in a day, but like it's so important. Like last week, I had like 10 minutes before I was heading home, and I was like, I'm just gonna take 5 minutes just to like put my phone down and just think, and like it's just so much comes in your mind, and then you kind of have to like push that aside and then focus what you want to focus on. But I just don't think we take enough time to ourselves really to like just think about what we want to think about in life.
100%.
So I agree with you 100% there.
It's also a scary thing to sometimes like pause and sit and think about what you want, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
To have to like sit and acknowledge and recognize that, or audit your day about like what did I do today? Is it actually in alignment with like what I want to do in my life? And maybe you don't even know what it is that you want to do within your life, or maybe you don't even know how you want to operate, or maybe you feel that like out of alignment, but you don't even know what that means realistically, right? Because
for sure,
you've been living societally, socially, or based off family expectations, all the expectations that are kind of pushed on us in life, and until we actually sit down and address that or acknowledge that, at least I like to think so.
Yeah.
Then it's hard to really know what really is alignment for us, and how to live in that harmony and that peace. And
life can get pretty pretty messy.
And it's a way to put, for sure. 100%.
Okay, so you used to be a firefighter.
Yes, sir.
What made you want to be a firefighter?
So when I was a kid, my best friend growing up, Johnny, his dad was a firefighter. We were on like the same baseball team when we were like real young, and we used to go to the fire hall all the time, and just surrounded in that life and that environment. And started gearing my life towards it at a very young age, and it was just seeing the impact that I think they had, and I think the feeling that a lot of kids have towards firemen, firefighters, is seeing that that pillar, that inspiration, that leader, that piece of safety, these heroes that are there to serve and protect and save, the ones that run in while everyone else is running out. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I want. That's what I need. That's what I want to do. I want to help others, and I also want to be a pillar in my community to be able to help and save and serve as many people as I can.
So bring me back to February 17th, 2014. Your first day at the recruit hall, I believe.
Yeah.
Was it what you expected?
No.
No? In what sense?
No, it wasn't. First day at the recruit hall. I mean, it was to a degree, but there was a response from, we're sitting in there, and again, I'm 21. I got hired super young, so I was like, I was a baby. I was like a wee kid. Just moved in from. I was living out west at the time in Whistler, and it was it was a really crazy journey actually. When I got on, I was a dog sled guide in Whistler actually.
Okay, that's a bit of a pivot.
Quick pivot.
So how did that come about?
It was honestly the easiest job I've ever gotten in my life. It was like me and my two buddies. We did like the Step Brothers interview where three of us like showed up and like smoked a joint with the woman that owned the dog sled. And she's like, yeah, you guys seem cool. Yeah, sure, you can do this. And like the first time I ever went dog sledding, I literally took a tour out. Like I took people on the tour.
Wow.
First time on a dog sled.
Right in the fire.
That's it. Came back. I was like, thank you for trusting me and joining me on my first ever tour, and they're like, "What?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?"
Yeah.
But so dog sledding. So I had the interview for Windsor Fire, where I got hired right before I went out west, moved out west with my buddies. I was young, felt great, but I didn't really know. I was 20 when I interviewed. It's very unlikely for under the age of 23. There's not really many hires, even 24. It's more like late 20s, early 30s is kind of the standard. And so I went out west, dog sledding, and I got really sick. I got bronchitis, but still had to work. Sorry. And yeah, got really sick at West and kept working, coughing up a lung. And I come home one night and I look in the mirror and I look down and I have this huge bulge in my crotch, in my groin area. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? What is that?
Yeah.
And I had a hernia. I had no idea. I was 20. I'm like, I don't know what a freaking hernia is.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so I go to the doctor.
Also, when you're 20, you feel like you're unbeatable. You're invincible.
I'm like, that's so weird. So I kept working. I didn't even go to the doctor. Didn't do anything. I was like, oh, what is that? And then I kept dog sledding.
You saw a big bulge, and you're like, I gotta go to work.
Yeah, I got stuff to do. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
And the thing with dog sledding, you think it's mostly the dogs doing all the work, but it's actually you. When they're going uphill, you're running sleds. So you think about sled work.
Yeah.
I've got 2 people in the sled or 3 people in the sled, plus the dog team is running, but I'm behind the sled, depending on the size of the team, pushing the sled up this hill. So through that forest over the following week, this gumball sized bulge ended up growing into a grapefruit. And then, so I had this huge bulge, and it was in excruciating pain. So stopped dog sledding.
Yeah.
Saw the doctor, and they're like,
what are you doing? You got a hernia, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever, I ended up in Vancouver, and I'm looking for a surgeon, trying to figure out what to do. And I get the call for the job. They're like, you're hired. Amazing. And I'm like, fantastic. Okay, let's go. And I told them, I'm like, I'm looking for a surgeon right now with this hernia. And the woman that called me, she's like, you're going to go through medical and you won't pass if you have a hernia, so you won't be able to get the job. So I'm like, okay, so I had to do a physical again before I did the test, before I was able to actually get into recruit class. And I also couldn't have a hernia. So I'm like shit, okay, I guess it was 9 months wait in Canada. So I'm like, I can go to the States. I can get it done in 3 days if I need to, but I have to pass this physical first. So I'm I could barely walk a block. It just sucked. And have you ever done a VO2 test? VO2 max test?
Yeah.
So I had to do a VO2 max test, which is for those of you that don't know, it's sprinting on a treadmill until you can't breathe, and you breathe with this mask on, and it's basically
a capacity test, basically.
Yeah, your capacity within your lungs. So. Anyways, fly home, do this test, and I talked to my doctor first, and he's like, look, either you pass the test, and then you fly to the States, and you get the surgery, and then you get to go to recruit class, or you fail the test, you get your hernia intestines locked up, and you have to have emergency surgery, which sucks, but either way, win-win. And I was like, okay. So anyways, long story long, I passed physical, flew to Detroit, got surgery in Detroit. So when I went to go pick up or go sign my papers for when I got hired, it was 2 days after my surgery. So I'm walking in with a cane.
Yeah.
And the chief is like,
what's going on here?
What did we just hire? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
So it was 2 weeks after, it was day 1 of recruit class. And so I was I was supposed to lift more than 15 pounds. So it was. So
how did you pivot that then? When you were there, you're like, don't bench me, coach. I can do this.
I just kind of showed up, but it was great, man. It was. There was one. We used to do these trial tests in the morning, so every morning we'd have to do this circuit where we'd be in full gear, go on air. We'd start off. We'd have to hit this roof prop with a sledgehammer on air 50 times each side. Hose roll, raise a 35-foot ladder, put it down, bring it back, like by ourselves, put it back down, run across, drag a hose, hit a target, run up 4 flights, 5 flights, 6 flights of stairs with a hose pack, drop it, and then pull up a hose length from the top, run back down, and then we'd have to drag a dummy, like a 200-pound dummy, like, what was it? I don't know, like 100 feet or something like that. And that was like the morning ritual.
Morning routine.
Yeah. And it was like time trial, so we're trying to hit it. Yeah, we're pushing ourselves.
Of course.
Yeah. And anyways, it was probably like, I was like, I'd just gotten that go ahead to like start really diving in and moving.
And usually when you get that go ahead, it's like you can do some light work, you can push forward, not it's like do what you're doing.
Yeah. Not like, risk it for the biscuit and go all out. It's like you can pick up like 15 pounds or 30 pounds. Ridiculous shit. But anyways, the week prior, I got the best time out of my class, which was great.
Oh, perfect.
It was sick, yeah. So I kept pushing, and then the following week, I ended up like just going too hard and just like ended up almost rupturing the stitches and everything again. Man. But it was good, man. It was sick. It was like, he was 21 years old, apartment, like dream come true.
Yeah.
It was like, let's go. I'm here. I made it. Again, long story long. Thanks for
that's okay.
Pivoted to the dog sled
and then brought it back. Yeah. Okay, so obviously we want to talk about like resilient ones.
Yeah.
So what made you stop wanting to pursue firefighting?
What made me want to stop? So basically over a period of years, from about 2019 realistically was the start. I'm gonna go back a little bit realistically.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So firefighting for me was everything. It was like my life. It still is in a lot of ways. Like it's who I am. It's a big piece of my identity. I have it tattooed on my arm, my badge numbers on my shoulder. It's a big piece of me. And I take a lot of pride in it. And that I grew up, I became a man realistically in the fire hall, surrounded by men, doing very difficult, crazy things and living life to the fullest and risking it. And I was living the societal, social, family expectations, cultural, whatever you want to like call it. I was like following the formula of like what I thought at least life should be. You get the job, make good money, you get the house, you get the partner.
Maybe the dog.
I hadn't reached that point yet. It was coming. But so I had a side business going on. So I was hustling, like go to the fire hall and I'd get off work and I'd work another 12 to 14-hour days, day in my construction landscaping business as well. And it was just really crazy, long and chaotic. And, I was using a lot, like drinking a lot, as well as like amphetamines, more like over the counter, like Adderall and stuff like that to keep me going, keep me alive. So I could really just keep going.
Yeah.
And me and my ex-fiance, we was engaged, had a really rocky point, and I just didn't feel like I was in alignment with what I was doing. We spoke about that alignment earlier, and really I didn't feel aligned with who I was. But you keep going, you keep pushing through. Resilience, that concept of pushing through. Yeah. At least like the one concept. And it was January of 2019. I was going on a ski trip with a bunch of buddies, a bunch of firefighters, paramedics, and the night before we had this like rockin' fire. So all of us were up all night. It was like a full square block. Like one time where I actually thought I was gonna die. Like one of the few times where it was like, it's like flames are blowing out like 15 feet from this window. Over here, you got like 2 crews on like 2.5-inch hose lines, like spraying water. You got aerials set up, like the roof is collapsed in half the block. And we get called in to do a primary search on the left side of the building, and like these double doors. And it's just like this churning chaos of like smoke. The smoke, like you can see, it's this turbulent smoke just spinning at the top. No smoke is coming out of the window because all the air is being sucked underneath. So it's just churning, and we get called in to do a primary search in there. Anyways, we were good. It was all right. But it was just like was a long night. None of us slept. We drive up to Blue Mountain. We go on this trip, and a good friend of mine loved to do some pretty wild things. He loved to climb buildings and
A wild child.
Wild child, yeah, absolute legend, like big beauty.
Yeah.
And he was climbing the outside of the hotel that we were staying at that night. A bunch of us were inside, some of us were outside, and he made it to the 4th story, and he grabbed the eaves troughs, and it broke, and he fell. So he fell 4 stories and passed. So, you know, we all ran down, we're all firefighters and whatnot, but run down and start working on him and try and bring him back. But he was gone. And it was that mixed with, I mean, realistically, that was...
Seems like that was a huge...
It was a big catalyst.
Yeah,
large catalyst of having to reevaluate my own life, coming home and no fault to my ex-fiance, but we were already in a rocky place, and she didn't know how to take care of me. I didn't know how to take care of myself, and wasn't really willing in a lot of ways to receive any help from her. And we were young. It's no fault of hers by any means. It's just the reality of the situation. So our engagement ended 2 months later after my friend passed as well, and it really sparked something within me. It was like a really dark time, really low time, but it made me want to dive into how I could elevate myself and begin living in alignment, begin living from this whole place. So I began this journey of traveling in 2019. I was traveling like 4 to 6 months a year all around the world, diving into new cultures and just experience life at the fullest. You know, I was still firefighting, but I wanted to live. I wanted to see what the world had to offer. And it was a beautiful journey, at least really began that way. And as time went on, it turned a bit. You know, I still didn't really have, I had a lot of grounding exercises. I was doing therapy and like reading all the books, self-help books. I was doing breath work and a lot of nervous system regulation practices, lots of journaling. Like, I'm a slut for journaling. I love journaling. Sorry, a little aggressive.
And that's okay. It's okay.
But like truly, journaling it's such a powerful practice, and it's my favorite practice personally. But through traveling, I ended up just getting caught up in a deeper hole of avoidance, as well as dissociation and just partying and abuse, between alcohol, drugs, and a whole variety of other things. You know, I was doing things, and I didn't think I had a problem. It didn't seem like I had a problem. You know, I was partying and living, and I was like, I'm doing what like everyone, like on paper or in the videos on my Instagram or whatever. Everyone's like, oh my God, this guy's living his best life. You know, rich and famous, like traveling the world, like these exclusive parties, like crazy things, like doing. It was wild, but I wasn't happy, and I wasn't enjoying it. And I was just pushing down and suppressing and trying to get out of Windsor, didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to be there. Like, I still loved fighting fires. I still loved being with the boys. I still loved like that piece, but I had so much resistance towards work that I didn't understand, that I really didn't click for me. I didn't get why I didn't want to be there. I just knew that like I had this huge resistance, and over a couple more years, I began having like panic attacks at work. I began like, I'd be at home, I'd hear sirens, and I began like really getting dysregulated in all different ways, even just being in the city and certain experiences, certain sights, smells, sounds. But again, not being able to acknowledge what that was and continuing to abuse myself and life realistically with all of these other escapism tools. And so it was 2022. I was in Mykonos. I was in Europe for a month. Kind of wasn't supposed to be. I was supposed to be on this TV show, and didn't end up happening. And I ended up just traveling and partying and seeing a bunch of friends. And again, on paper, it looked amazing, but really dark place. I didn't want to be there. And I met this guy. Ended up living with him in Mykonos for about 2 weeks. And he was a life coach. He had been through his own journey of trials and tribulations, and created this program, Michael Blunt. He created this program about self-mastery. And we connected, and I felt like he saw me, you know, as much as I was abusing myself. And, you know, I think I went to the beach one day out of 12. I saw the sun like for like an hour or two each day. It was not
ideal if you were traveling there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I came home and I signed up for his program. So I did a 3-month coaching program with this guy, Mike, and it changed my life, because what it stemmed from was the belief systems. So it allowed me to break down what limiting beliefs I had internally that were causing me to continuously act out of a position of lack versus abundance, and act out of just really not for myself, like not out of a whole place. And so I broke down these limiting beliefs, reinvented and reinstilled new ones that I began to embody, manifest, and create. And it sparked something in me. And so I began thinking, I was like, you know what? Like, I'd been doing some mental health talks. I spoke at a few different conferences about mental health, and was trying to be a big advocate and pushing people towards, or inviting people, I should say, towards doing more.
Better verbiage.
Yeah. And like the aspect of, there's a great line. It's like, you know, we get our teeth checked up, and we see the dentist twice a year at least. And, well, some of us.
Yeah.
Why don't we get our brain checked up on? Our brain, arguably our most important organ in our body, other than our heart, and we don't get it checked up on, even just for like a quick, like an adjustment, a tune-in. And so I began to think with firefighting, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this job. I'm helping people at the end of their rope, like people that have like literally at the end of their life, whether it's they've already hit that place where it's like they've hit rock bottom. And for a lot of them, the majority of the time, there was no going back. Like, that was it, right? And I was like, what if I could begin life coaching? What if I could begin helping people from that preventative, proactive approach, and even implement these practices within the fire department at some point? You know, be able to help and teach and share with first responders in the FD about how we can take a different approach on the way that we even deal with trauma. And so I began taking life coaching programs and courses and coaching individuals in 23. And the only issue was I began incorporating the practices I was doing in life coaching onto the job as well, for how I was responding and treating patients and responding to calls. And the other piece was, it just cracked open Pandora's box internally for me. So the mirror that you could say was painted black, that I wasn't able to see myself. I wasn't able to see my wounds. I wasn't able to see what was going on internally for me. By helping other people, by diving into this work, everything started to unfold internally for myself. I began to see the abuse that I was having within myself, and I began to see the responses I was having with other individuals, and within the fire department, within the environment I was at, where the panic attacks began kicking in more frequently, the avoidance, and a lot of it I was still not willing to acknowledge. Until the summer of 23, I was on like a 3-week bender. Again, still doing all this like health and wellness stuff.
I was going to ask, so
sorry. Please.
No, it's okay. But during this situation, during all of this, you're still using those vices.
Yeah.
Right? So with still trying to learn about yourself, learning all these things.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting piece, you know? It's like you can learn, and do all the work. But until you actually acknowledge, and there's so many layers, right? Like everyone talks about that piece of the onion, of like all of the layers of the onion.
Yeah.
It's like you have to sometimes break down piece by piece by piece by piece so you can get to the center. And so during this period of trying to help people, I was still like drinking like crazy, doing drugs, partying. And summer of 23, again, I was supposed to go on another TV show, ended up not working out. And I ended up going to Toronto, was on like a 3-week bender, partying my face off every day, every night. And I found some communities in Toronto, like Othership, where I felt safe, where I felt it was the first time I would like party at night. I would get all banged up, and then I would go to Othership and I'm a big ice bath. I've always been in ice baths for like 6-7 years, and sauna, and I'd come to these places and I would do these emotional regulation practices, and I'd feel safe, and I'd cry, and I'd fully tap in, and then such an interesting take for me. And it was at the end of that 3-week bender where I'd like party, and then I'd go to other and like reset my body, reset my mind. I met up with one of the founders and was like, how do I get involved in this? I was super unwell. And honestly, I left that conversation with him just being like, I'm so scared to go home. I'm so scared to go back to the fire department. I'm scared to go back to the city. Not specifically to do the job per se in a lot of ways, but it's the pre and the post. Like I calm, like my heart rate lowers in like high stress situations. Like that's where I actually feel safest. It's where I feel most at home. It's in the chaos, in that like wildness. It's like, oh, this is peace for me. I love this. But it's the pre and the post where it's quiet and where there's stillness. That's where it's the fear and the rumination, all the pieces come into play. Anyways, I left that meeting. I called my union president. I was like, dude, like, I don't know if I can come back. And I told him all the reasons why, what was happening in my body, in my mind, and it was my captain actually. And he was also in the union, and he's like, Adam, this sounds like PTSD, man. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, no way. What are you talking about? Yeah. And wasn't willing to acknowledge, even though like I was so involved in the mental health world and like even trying to bring awareness about like post-traumatic stress and all of this stuff, I wasn't willing to acknowledge that there was something wrong with me because again, the ego, being a man, like, no. If I'm young, like I've only been on the job 10 years. There's no way there's something wrong with me. And anyways, over the following months, there was just more and more realizations and understanding. And I was diagnosed a few times by a few different doctors, and eventually went off end of September of 23 after being diagnosed with PTSD. And yeah, that was kind of the journey of how that transition leaving the fire department. Do you still
talk to your original life coach? What was his name again?
Michael Blunt.
Do you still talk to him? Or
yeah. I spoke with him a couple weeks ago. He actually, I think last week he just had a kid, so he's.
Congrats!
Yeah, congrats, Mike. Love you, buddy.
Yeah. So, do you still check in with him? Do you still have conversations with him?
Yeah, every once in a while. We spoke about a month ago. We had a call, and I was going to go visit him, and anyways, he's having a kid, so it did make sense.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course.
But yeah, it was great, man. It's nice to be able to still have that connection and mentorship and friendship, and I think that's a big beauty of the difference between even coaching and therapy in a lot of ways, right? You build a relationship with your coach on a personal level, where with a therapist there is that separation, and for good reason. Like there's reasons why we do certain things, and as a coach, I can't do what a therapist is going to do. And as a coach, I'll direct you to a therapist depending on what it is that you want to dive into. Because from experience, when I'm trying to dive into the really deep shit and be like, oh no, I can help you, or like trying to incorporate those practices in the wrong ways, it's damaging for both myself and yourself.
So, okay, going back to when you were diagnosed with PTSD, how's that phasing out from the fire hall? How does that happen?
Oh, dude,
is it one of those like you sign a paper and you're out? This is like a week or two. Do you tell your boys there? Like how's that flow of things?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's not a really smooth flow. It's not like It's a pretty shitty
situation.
It's pretty shitty. Yeah, it's again the identity piece, right? It's like it's when it's so internally ingrained as who you are. Like I was out on the firefighter. That was like a big piece of who I was. It was just who I was.
Was there any doubt? You're like, when you go through, you're like, maybe I should be been here.
Still doubt for sure.
Yeah,
100%. But doubt of like going off realistically is kind of the piece, right? It was like, or going back per se, right? Initially, when I went off, it wasn't. I mean, I wasn't sure if I could go back, but it was like take the time and do the work, go into intensive trauma treatment. I was doing like 5 to 6 hours a week of like trauma treatment with multiple therapists, different programs, as well as diving into like communities within Toronto, because I literally couldn't be in Windsor. I left my house. I left like all of my stuff. I packed like a suitcase and I moved to Toronto. I moved in with a buddy. I was like, I cannot be in Windsor. It was so triggering for me. And it's also an interesting piece, this PTSD aspect, which I like really, really want to hit home because this is really important. It's a lot of internal shame. It's a big piece about that shame on self, right? You're in this gray area where you don't feel like, especially first responders, I mean, in a lot of different ways, like maybe it's sexual abuse or whatever it is, to have this shame internally because, first of all, the firefighters that I knew on the job, I couldn't relate with them because they weren't in the position that I was in. They were still doing the job and doing the things and fighting the fires and like the community, the brotherhood, where it's like there's more awareness around PTSD, but it's still a very touchy subject, right? And then when I would be off the job, talking to individuals, civilians, realistically, like friends, communities, they've never done the job. They've never done the shit that I've done. They've never seen the things that I've seen. They've never had to hear the things that I've had to hear. And so they couldn't relate on that level. So you feel lost. You feel like you're stuck in this gray place where people, like, nobody sees you and you're on your own. So it's a big piece of figuring out what that looks like for you and figuring out that identity and coming back home to you. And allowing as well, which is a process for all of us and myself. I'm still working on this process. We had a conversation about it last night, but allowing yourself to be held, allowing yourself to be seen, and allowing others to take the reins in some ways and realistically help you in whichever way they can.
When did, because I'm assuming you started to like, okay, I got to cut back on the drinking and all that. Did you do that right away when you were phasing out from the fire hall?
Yeah.
How did you find that? Did you find like you were like
brutal?
Like, where's the beer at?
Yeah, man. It was like everything. It's still a process in a lot of ways. It's like cutting. It's sometimes you get pulled back, right? And it's understanding. It's understanding that longer term vision, that direction, and I think I was so sick. Mentally, but also like I actually had a brain injury, which is something that I think is really important to acknowledge as well. Like PTSD literally alters your brain. Your brain doesn't operate in the same way. And through doing the work I've been doing, it's only recently that I actually acknowledged that piece of how when you do have PTSD and a variety of other obviously illnesses or diseases or whatever you want to call it, your brain chemistry is shifted. So like for me, there's something called like the window of tolerance, which all of us have. And basically this window of tolerance, it's focused on the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system. So like our rational brain and our like primal animalistic brain. The limbic system, there's a great reference of like, picture this like lizard in a cave. And like the lizard's in the cave, he's chilling, you're rational over here. But like anytime you get a heightened state like that, fight, flight, freeze or fawn, the 4 Fs, that lizard pokes his head out of the hole and he's like, what the fuck's going on? And it's like that primal internal whatever piece of your brain reacting, right? And so most people, they float within this 1 to 10 range of this window of tolerance. And through our days, we move through this window of tolerance, whether it's like beautiful moments where I'm super happy and super joyful, or I'm super sad, or like somebody like cuts you off in traffic, or somebody yells at you, or some shit happens. Most people say float within this window of tolerance, and freeze or fawn. So the 2 F's say it's like 0 to 2 within that 1 to 10 range. That's where that freeze or fawn is. 8 to 10 is where that fight or flight is. So most people float between that 2 to 8 range. When you have post-traumatic stress disorder, the window shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. So say for me, and I only learned this recently, like 2 months ago, my range is say between 4 and 6. So when I spoke about how I need to regulate myself more consistently, really dial in and own my mornings, it's because my window of tolerance of where I float between is shrunken. So I am it's much more easy it's much easier for me to pop off into that fight or flight or that freeze or fawn and to be dysregulated. And it's an empowering thing to know. And I think also for people out there to kind of understand, like, people with PTSD or even like other brain injuries or other diseases, whatever it is, other mental health issues, it's literally they're just not able to regulate. Like their chemistry has changed. They need to shift something so they can regulate, so they can show up more consistently, like ourselves, like we are now. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, they even find that with like people with like CTE, like later on, if they realize, like people with CTE.
What's CTE?
So you know how like boxers, like people who are punch drunk, like boxers, so they find that their brain, or football players, they find that later on. I mean, if you look back at the science, they can't rationalize, or they're not really like being logical with situations because they're not really, like, as you said, self-regulating.
Totally.
And not really like paying attention to their symptoms or what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, the brain is so interesting.
So interesting. Totally.
Okay, so talk to me about Resilient Ones.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. So how did it get started? Like, what inspired you to create it?
Yeah.
Like the name, everything, like talk about it all.
For sure. So basically, Resilient Ones was created from all of this shit. So I saw this huge gap where I was within this gap. I felt lost. I felt within that gray area where I thought, if I had learned the practices that I'm now learning through trauma treatment, through all of these moments before I had started the job, before I was exposed to all this trauma, then maybe I would respond differently. Maybe I would have been able to cope. Maybe I would have been able to deal with the situation or see the traumatic incident, or go to the call and then come back and process it when I needed to. Maybe if I took that preventative, proactive approach to the way that we deal with stress, challenges, and trauma in our lives, it could have a longer term impact on how I could show up as my best self without basically taking that trauma in on me. So that was where Resilient Ones kind of stemmed from. It was like, how can I create the biggest impact on the past versions of myself? And still seeing firefighters that I knew that were living with pain, living with struggle, living with hurt, but not willing to acknowledge it, not willing to address it, because, I mean, first of all, you got to make money. Second of all, you don't want to be seen as weak. Third of all, like
especially as a man.
Especially as a man, 100%.
Yeah,
especially in a male-driven environment where it's like, Get Alpha, you speak about alpha. Like firefighters, police, like these types of careers, you're looking for alpha men, like alpha males that are literally like stand up strong, go through the shit, run through the walls, which is amazing, and it's a great ability to be able to do, right? Like you need these men to be able to do the hard things to help people. The problem is, who is helping these strong men? Who are the people that are there, that are holding space and that are helping these alpha males acknowledge and assess and audit their struggles, their trials, their tribulations, so they can show up as their best selves, keep doing the work, and keep living a life as that alpha male, but in a healthy way.
Let me ask you a question. Like, why do you think, or maybe you can disagree with me, but why do you think women have so much more ease having humility than men? Do you think it's just like, do you think it's a culture? Do you think it's a toxic masculinity in the sense of like, pushing through? Like, it just seems like, obviously it can be same, like it happens more with women too.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have to be honest that it's predominantly a man thing, that we can't have humility, we can't have vulnerability. It's hard for us to do that. Why do you think that is?
I mean, so personally for me, I don't think humility relates in my mind for it, but
yeah.
You touched on the piece about vulnerability,
yeah,
right? Like, I think vulnerability is very different. Women speak about their emotions. They chat about how they're feeling, and obviously we just operate in different ways. And I think it stems from a very primal, animalistic place, and not an archaic place, but literally like a piece of ourselves where men were the providers, the protectors.
That's just how it was.
Which is still ingrained in us, right? And that's still what is expected in a lot of ways. Like it's interesting. There was a great talk, Brene Brown, I think it was in her book. She's a shame doctor, I guess you call her. But she speaks about this conference she gave, and she's focusing specifically on women about shame. And this man comes up. He had came to the conference with his wife and 2 daughters, and he comes up and he sits talking there, and he asks, he's like, why don't you ever speak about like men and vulnerability and men feeling shame? You know, vulnerability is courage, to be able to be
100%,
vulnerable in front of other individuals in whatever context that means is bearing your heart. It's being courageous to be authentically you and showing up as yourself and not being scared to show your emotions, to feel and to love realistically in a lot of ways too, right? And so this man goes up and he speaks to her. And he's like, why don't you speak about shame and men? He's like, my wife wants me to be vulnerable. My daughters, they want me to be vulnerable, want me to bear my emotions. But they're telling me that they don't want me to come up to speak to you to say this question. It's like, I'm expected to be the protector. I'm expected to be the man. I'm expected to show up for you, but you also want me to be vulnerable. And it's a difficult double-edged sword, right? It's like, and so understanding that balance as a man, I think is really what's important. I think it's being able to tap into your vulnerability as a man and the strength as a man. The
strength is a big thing. My martial arts teacher always taught me there's vulnerability and strength, and there's strength and vulnerability. And that just always like really stuck out with me, just because I think there's absolutely zero wrong with having vulnerability, right? And with vulnerability, like you can build on yourself and you can build that strength, right? Okay, so I want to ask you though, what does resilience mean to you?
What does resilience mean to me?
Yeah.
So I think resilience means a few different things. I don't think there is one definition of what resilience actually is. Resilience is pushing through. It's pushing through the pain and being able to show up. Resilience is also being able to suffer, to struggle, and again, be able to get up after you've been on the ground for however long. I think that's the biggest piece. Resilience is realistically adaptability. So it's the ability to be flexible, and be able to bend and flow depending on whatever challenges or stresses that do arise in your life. And it's not having one answer or one response for anything that comes your way. You need to be able to have multiple avenues to be able to respond.
Yeah, adaptation.
It's everything.
How do you cultivate that with your clients?
So through Resilient Ones, I run them through this process called the flexibility mindset and then the flexibility sequence. So the first half of my program, this 10-week program that I run them through, it's a lot of belief work. So we tap into the root base of understanding what internal belief systems have maybe been created or they've created from a young age. Initially, most of the time to protect themselves, to keep themselves safe, and were served as serve them a purpose so they could feel safe. But the problem is our body doesn't know that we don't need them anymore, that we've now evolved, that we're now safe, that we've moved on, that we've built that stack of undeniable proof, as Hormozy will say, about that we are the people that we say we are. And we don't know that. We keep forgetting it internally. So it's recreating belief systems and tapping into new elevated belief systems where they reinstill who they want to be, who they want to see, the person that they know that they actually are already, the person that maybe they see 10 years down the road, but that they keep forgetting about. And so through the program, it's getting them to tap into that belief system work through this this process. It's basically CBT based, so it's thoughts, feelings, actions surrounding these belief systems. So understanding what thoughts you have surrounding this limiting belief. So getting them to focus on a specific area of their life and break that down. Like what are the thoughts that I think surrounding my love relationships, surrounding my career, surrounding my spirituality, surrounding my family? How do I feel in my body? How do I feel emotionally? And what are the actions that I'm taking, like actually in my life? Like how am I responding to specific situations? And then based off of that, I get them to create an I am statement, an onus of what that is, so they can understand it. And basically what it is, it's just allowing them to process and get clear on what that limiting belief is. And then I get them to flip that into the new elevated belief. So who they want to be. It's the exciting piece of like, this is who I am, but maybe I just don't believe it yet. And I need to internalize and really tap into that belief system. So they do the same process, thoughts, feelings, actions, and recreate this new I am statement of who they are, who they want to be. So simple example would be someone shifting from I am not enough to I am more than enough. Very, very simple example. But it's that simple change and shift and reinforcing it internally allows them to show up consistently as that person that they want to be. It's like you have to understand, the reason why we do this, you have to understand like where you're like, picture like a Google Maps. Like when I got driving here today, I had to put my starting destination and then my end destination. I need to understand where I was to get to where I want to go, right? So I get to break down where I was and be like, okay, that's over there. I'm gonna leave this over here, and it'll keep coming up, and you're gonna keep out checking it, and then, but I do see where I want to go, and I understand who I want to be, and so it's embodying that piece, and then a whole array of other exercises. Again, that flexibility mindset, which is a mindset created by a resilience researcher named George Bonanno. He's one of the top resilience researchers in the world. And the flexibility sequence, which is more action-based. But these are basically the pillars of the program with a whole bunch of different tools and exercises and practices that I have my clients run through, as well as like optimizing and basically dialing into the consistent practices like habit work, auditing their weeks, auditing their days, owning their mornings, owning their nights, and really breaking into who they want to be so they can show up for the program and in turn show up for themselves.
Interesting. Very, very in depth. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So what are some of the challenges you have faced in branding and promoting Resilient Ones?
Challenges I have faced, I think.
I mean, we talked about before, like the work of like figuring out like websites and stuff like that. Do you find that like a big hump into like figure out, because with starting a business, you gotta now I gotta do the marketing and I gotta do this. Like
I think it's a lot of like testing, right? Like it was a lot of clarity for me. Like when I said how Resilient One started, like Resilient One started as a focus of being the gap, bridging the gap for people to basically learn nervous system regulation practices as well as shift internal belief systems so they can tap into that higher version of themselves while also have the tools so when they face things in the future, when they face challenges, stressors, traumas, they can respond effectively, understanding that it wasn't only for firefighters, it wasn't only for first responders, but like all of humankind. I mean, the focus for me is on high achievers and first responders, but realistically, the system works for everyone, and all of us go. Like I run myself through this program, not daily, but like weekly. I run myself through my own practices, like all the time because it works and it's effective. And I think getting that piece more clear about like who your audience is, who your market is, who the people are that you actually really want to help, and diving into just doing the work and just showing up, like it's funny. You listen to David Goggins, you listen to these motivational speeches and they're like, go to the gym, lift the weight, do the thing. And I'm like,
go to the gym.
I'm like, I love it. I'm like, I love that shit. Like that's my happy place. Like you don't need to tell me to do that. I'll live in the gym. If I want to. I'll do these hard things all day long. Like put me in it, like sign me up. That sounds like magic to me. To sit down and like like create a website or like I don't know, like understand, like writing down all the specifics of like programs and the laptop work. That I need like a dude yelling at me. Like sit down, like write the article.
That's the motivator.
Do the blog, send the email, and I'm like, fuck, man.
I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think at least for myself, that's the biggest shift of is doing the things you don't want to do. And understanding that like there's a different challenge for each of us of what that looks like.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. So I'm just curious, maybe you don't have the answer, but if younger you had you now, to help you guide you through things, do you think you still would be a firefighter?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything in my life. Not a single thing.
Right.
Yeah. I think it makes us who we are. I'm grateful for who I am today, and I'm proud of the man I am today.
I love that.
And I think that's the gift. I don't think we should ever want to change the things that happen to us in our lives. It's how we learn and grow and become the people that we are. It's just the willingness to actually learn and understand and get clear
and grow too.
And grow from it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true. What's one thing you refuse to compromise with resilient ones, no matter how big you get? One thing you don't want to compromise, no matter how big you get.
I think integrity.
Mm-hmm. And what does that integrity look like for you?
The authenticity piece. It's like, for me, it's impact over everything. So it's been interesting tapping into the health and wellness industry. And when I moved to the city, I began coaching and teaching so I could be immersed in communities, still be a leader, still be able to help, teaching hundreds of people every week, and also embody and learn the practices that I was teaching, right? You become, I don't remember I heard this quote last night, but it was about when you teach the practices, when you're teaching practices that you want to embody, whatever, you learn it more within yourself, if that makes sense. Obviously that didn't sound smooth. Maybe you could word it better.
No. I know exactly what you mean. Like when you teach it, you master it better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like being able to teach it allowed me to embody the practices and like really do it and show up, right? And what the hell was the question again? I totally
it's okay. No, so I asked you like the integrity, and I asked you like
integrity.
What did you like? No matter how big,
authenticity. Yeah. No matter how big.
You answered it. Don't worry, we're good guys. He answered it.
No, but I think the biggest thing, it was like understanding within the health and wellness industry that I've tapped into. Again, stemming from a very different place.
Yeah.
The firefighter, masculine, like do the work, like construction, landscaping, like get your hands dirty and show up. They're just very different world. It's like spiritual, mental, and there's a lot of coaches who are, and again, maybe it's my own personal opinion, but truly, like, there's a lot of abuse, and I've only realized over the last year and a half, like, there's a lot of like coaches and health and wellness professionals that have no business being in the space. They're doing it, in my opinion, for the wrong reasons. And monetary value is obviously important. We all need financial freedom to be able to
do
live
things
and provide for ourselves.
Yeah.
But for me, it's intention over everything. It's the authenticity piece and the integrity piece of like, how can I create an impact in the world, both for the past versions of myself, but also for the future ones and for the next generations coming through. So when you ask about a piece for resilient ones that will never change, it's impact over everything. Like, how can I be my most authentic self and create a shift and a change in the world? And I think that's something that every coach that is out there should ask themselves.
That's
realistically, is like, why are you doing what you're doing? Especially if you're in a service industry, especially if you're trying to help other people. Is it for you purely? Are you doing it for fame, for fortune, whatever? Or are you doing it for the other people? Are you doing it for the past versions of yourselves? And I think that's something that every coach really needs to dive in and ask themselves. So you coach others through burnout, but what does burnout look like for you? And how do you catch that early? Ooh, what does burnout look like to me? I mean, I think it's I'll first start with how do you catch it? So self-awareness is everything. Understanding your body, understanding how you respond, understanding when you don't feel like, your body will tell you when you don't want to do something. You just have to listen to it. Like when you don't feel good in a situation, or you feel disconnected, or you feel your heart rate elevate, or whatever the situation is, listen to it and ask why. So I think that's number one, a great piece to understand about how to catch that burnout and how to know when you're in burnout. I think it's pretty clear often where you're exhausted, you're crushed, maybe mentally you're not feeling great. And I think there's different points between burnout or rock bottom, right? Like rock bottom to me is when it's like you don't see a way forward, where it's like you've hit the point where it's like you're you're just destroyed. And it's like, I can't keep doing this thing. I cannot keep doing this thing, and I have to make a shift, or you don't and you die. And it's like, as intense of an example as that is, like that's an actual like realistic example of firefighting life, right? It's like literally rock bottom was death for a lot of these people. And you know, suicide, the aspects of that within the world right now, which
so high.
I think of like I've heard like 5 different people in the last like 2 weeks of like friends of friends, and it's a real thing. That's rock bottom, going the wrong way, not being able to see that next way forward, next step up. So that burnout piece, though, because you don't want to get to that rock bottom piece. You know, rock bottom is a beautiful piece if you can see the way up. But if you can stop the burnout by tapping into that self-awareness piece, learning to regulate your nervous system, ask why, and then create the changes that, again, are in alignment with yourself and with your greater vision, your greater direction, that's the key to really success, in my personal opinion, in life. Yeah, it's how do you not burn out in realistic a lot of ways? It's just that, it's just tapping into you.
Yeah, that's true. What have you learned about yourself through the process of building resilient ones?
Oh man, so much.
Top thing
I learned
that stands out right now.
Top thing I've learned from resilient ones. Top thing I've learned from resilient ones. I guess would it be about me or others?
Doesn't matter.
I think for me, so the biggest thing I learned about myself through building resilient ones is that for each of us, there's not only one thing that we can do in our lives. You know, my identity was this firefighter. This is who I am. I'm a firefighter, and it was really difficult. Like understanding for people that transformation is difficult. Identity shifting is very difficult. And we get locked into maybe relationships or careers or situations that we feel like we have to stay in. So I think building resilient ones was me becoming a resilient one myself and transforming into a different version of myself and acknowledging and feeling worthy that this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. I can help these people in this other way. I'm not only this person. I get to be a leader here. I get to be a friend here. Maybe a son here. Whatever it may be. And also how adamant it is in the world, and the amount of people that I've spoken to over building it that need this work, that need transformational belief system shifting work, as well as to actually understand nervous system regulation techniques so they can tap into their best versions of themselves. And also that it's like not a one size fits all.
It's different.
It's different.
You just got to find the one that works for you.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm right for everyone either, right? And there are a lot of coaches that are really amazing that people can see. Like it's all of us have different pieces that connect us to specific people. But again, one of the biggest pieces of my program is like you learn a whole variety of tools that you apply and that you use and that you test. Maybe one doesn't work for you, but you have it in your repertoire. Like having that tools repertoire stacked up, having that Batman belt. Like Batman's just a regular dude, but like to be able to have this tool belt that you can use. Let me try this tool for whatever situation I have. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, I'm going to try this one. Okay, I'm going to try this one. And you move through that way. I think it's a beautiful gift.
I think, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
What's one truth about yourself you had to confront before you could lead others to honesty?
Oh,
That's a heavy one.
that's a good question.
That's not a fortune cookie one.
Yeah, no shit. Wait.
Now let me repeat it for you, just in case.
God damn.
What's one truth about yourself that you had to confront before you could lead others to honesty for resilient ones?
One truth about myself that I had to confront before I could lead others for resilient ones.
Clip that. I'm just joking.
The biggest truth I think I had to learn, and I've had to learn and I'm still consistently learning, is that things don't always work out the way that you expect them to. And the truth for myself was the belief that it had to be perfect, that it had to be, I wasn't enough unless, I guess a belief system realistically. So the truth was understanding that like my belief and myself was tied to my identity for what I was doing in the world. And I think there is a lot of beauty within legacy, and there's a lot of beauty within creating impact in life. But your worth needs to be tied to you as an individual, to understand that you are worthy no matter what it is that you're doing within your life. You're worthy as a human because you're here on this earth. And I think that was a truth that I really needed to confront myself, was understanding that worth wasn't tied to what other people thought of me or what other people expected of me. The worth was tied to what I thought of myself and what I expected of myself in a loving way, to just be in a lot of ways. Yeah.
What scares you most, failure or being misunderstood?
Oh man, good questions. God damn. Misunderstood. Yeah, for sure. Oh no, actually, you know what? I don't think either.
Okay.
Quite honestly, yeah. If I actually reflect on it, if I'm standing in my truth, if I'm standing in what I just said about who I am, the failure is just a redirection for me to figure out where I actually do need to go. It's a lesson. And to be misunderstood is an opportunity for me to clarify, or for me to just say, okay, this isn't for you. And then you be on your way and I'm going to be on mine. So both realistically I think are fine. I think they're both gifts for you to learn and to listen.
How do you balance being strong and pushing your limits, but also being kind to yourself?
Ooh. How do you balance being strong, pushing your limits, and being kind to yourself?
How do you do that for yourself?
I think the routines I have in the morning, the reflective work, the breath work, the time to sit with myself, doing the physical pieces where, hitting the gym every day, going for the runs, doing the sprints, and community. I mean, if you can, community is beautiful, right? Like lean into your friends, lean into your family, lean into the resources that you have. And if you don't have many, there are a lot of opportunities to find different communities that you can immerse yourself in, that will be willing and accepting of you and see you and hear you. There's spaces for all of us in this life. There's 8 billion people in this world, and there's a whole planet that you can kind of move through. So don't feel alone within it.
What's next for the company?
What's next for the company? So we have our 5th event actually coming up this Wednesday. Our Momentum Method workshops and events. They've been amazing. 50 to 60 people for each event. First hour has basically been mindfulness, where we run through different nervous system regulation practices, as well as the reflective work. I basically created a workbook that is focused on a few principles within my program: limiting beliefs, elevated beliefs, and those I am statements. This next one, they're going to be doing a yoga class, but I've taught boxing classes, I've taught hot and cold exposure with different emotional modalities. And then the third piece is that networking connection, and actually creating that intention of whatever it was that you created within that limiting to elevated belief, to take the steps as you move forward in your future. So we're going to be running hopefully another 10 events.
Beauty.
For the next year, which would be great. The other big pieces for resilient ones, so I have my 8-week coaching container, which is realistically 10, because there's an onboarding piece as well, but it's one-on-one group coaching, so elevating that, as well as small group coaching. So we run one a month right now, and basically elevating, tapping into that community, building it, seeing it grow. Basically taught more than 250 people now through the events, and a whole bunch of different coach clients, and it's been really beautiful. So expanding that program, and then also doing, I'm creating another program right now actually with
Awesome.
another psychologist surrounding pre-traumatic resiliency, similar to what I'm building, but more focused on, it's like a trauma resiliency program. So stabilization and understanding how the brain works, specifically for first responders. So it's a separate program that I'm looking forward to hopefully bring to.
Always busy. I love it.
That's it.
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so we end off the podcast with these two questions.
Yeah.
Describe yourself in one word, and I feel like I know what it is, but
yeah, I'd love to say resilient.
Yeah,
for
awesome.
sure.
And what does alpha mean to you?
What does alpha mean to me? I think alpha means being able to show up as a leader, a pillar, someone who is there for others, who can hold space, be strong for others, and also understand when to cut ties, release, and let go. So alpha is a combination of being that pillar for others and for yourself in this world.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Where can they find you? Let's shout you out. Your website.
Absolutely. So you can find me at resilientones.co. Check out my website for different workshops, events, as well as our coaching programs that we have there. And you can also find me on Instagram at Adam Kunder, as well as Resilient Ones. Oh, I lied. Sorry. It's RSNT dot ones.
Instagram handles are always so
Tricky. Yeah, so you can find me, basically go to my personal page, find me on Adam Kunder, and through there you'll be able to connect the link to our Resilient Ones website, Resilient Ones website, as well as Resilient Ones Instagram page, where all of our events, there'll be links for programs and everything else on there. And yeah,
I love it. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys are on YouTube, please like, share. If you guys are on Spotify, please post us. Helps give the amazing knowledge out. But other than that, we appreciate you. We love you. And I appreciate you being on, brother.
Thank you, man.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
See you guys.